Just because someone is close to you in terms of relationship, close to you in terms of coworker, so it doesn't mean you have to be best friends with them.
Right.
Because sometimes where you're headed and where they're headed are two different directions. And so there's no alignment in terms of goals. There's no alignment in terms of dedication, commitment. There's no alignment in terms of thought processes. And so what happens is, we get frustrated with each other. Mm-hmm. And so, so the way I choose my top 5 is if I'm in a place where I've made a decision to head in a certain direction,
right.
Anything that adds to me heading in that direction is a good thing.
Yes.
Anything that takes away from me heading in a direction that I said that this is what I've been called to do. This is my purpose. This is what I'm excited about over the next 12 months, next 5 years, whatever the plan is. Mm-hmm. Anything that takes away from that probably don't belong. They don't belong in the inner circle.
If you're a go-getter, faith-driven and family-focused and need to break through to your next level, this is the podcast for you. Your self-talk can reshape every area of your life. It's time to dream and think big. Welcome to the Self-Talk Experience with Darnell and Tracy Self. It's time to elevate, baby. Let's get into the show.
Welcome to the Self-Talk Experience. I am Tracy Self, and I'm here with my amazing co-host, Mr. Darnell Self. But before we get started, wait, yes. I wanted to shout out some of my friends that I was hanging out with when we were in California
West
2
Coast.
weeks ago. William Hawkins and Chantel Gant. Thank you so much for watching every week. We love you guys.
Hey, we really do appreciate all of our audience members. And because we've been on tour, traveling.
On tour. Yeah.
Hey, more than one stop is a tour.
I know, babe. Yes, we're on tour. We are on tour.
We have a few more stops, so we're excited about that. Yeah. I think we're at 4 more stops, so we are excited about that and excited about the self-talk experience because we realize that the things we repetitively say to ourselves about ourselves really do attract what we'll have for ourselves, even the people we attract in our lives.
Or the people we repel.
Very true. Very true. So, so let me just say this, guys. Like we watch the self-talk experience because we all have to be reminded to say the things that are positive things to ourselves. Otherwise, the negative things seem to seep in.
You look handsome today.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Shape up looks really nice. Maybe it's the green. I like that color on you, too. I'm sorry. Go ahead. No.
Is this like self-talk or is this you just complimenting me?
No, it just hit me and it just came out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like it.
And I like to love them, spoil them, and give them back. Grandma life.
It's my favorite shirt. Yes.
That is real. Now, what I was saying before you try to make me blush is that we really do have to intentionally practice self-talk. Mm-hmm. Well, not just self-talk, because we have self-talk, but positive self-talk.
Right.
So the reason why I brought that up is because we've talked about this particular subject or topic before, but it was never an episode. We just kind of threw it out there. And I thought it'd be great to talk about it because this is one of the things that I have to remind myself of often because I find myself slipping in this area. Mm-hmm. So I thought I'd be vulnerable and transparent and share with you all that, hey, sometimes things feel a little, awkward because I'm like, man, I'm slipping in this area of self-talk, and it's not as positive as I like it to be. So I'm going to share it.
Okay.
We often say that just because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong.
Oh yeah, Amari Hughes talked about that.
Yep.
On episode.
I don't remember which
gosh,
episode.
that was really in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
He talked about like when you're in a relationship and you're having a disagreement, different isn't wrong. So sometimes you have to figure that out because one person feels a way and another person feels another way. And both of them may be right for that person. Mm-hmm. And also, babe, being right for you in a season because you can change what you think is right.
Right.
I mean, we're not talking about anything.
Yeah, we're not talking about being unjust or breaking the law or, right, exactly.
Yeah, just how you feel and what your perception is on certain things.
Right.
Right?
Yep. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, because, folks are like, oh, no, wrong is wrong, right is right. I mean, sure. Like, if you're talking about, your religion, right? There are certain guidelines and standards that you abide by. There, if you're talking about mathematics, 2 + 2 is 4, right? So we're not talking about that right and wrong. What we're saying is a perspective, because someone may say, you really baby that child a little too much. And it just may be different than how you would raise that child. Now, we're not talking about abuse or neglect. Again, we're talking about someone who perhaps just raises their children different. And sometimes, folks are easy to judge.
Yeah.
And it's just different, right? And possibly because, again, what's wrong for you may not be wrong for them, because maybe, you never had a child that had cancer at 6 years old. Right. And so because they've almost maybe suffered a loss of that child, they embrace that next child in a way, and a third child in a way,
right,
knowing that they almost lost the first child. My point is, there's so many different reasons that people do things different, and we don't know everyone's life and what they're going through. So I have to remind myself sometimes when someone does something different than me to say, what in the world? Like, you know what I mean? Because this is what a lot of us say. We're like, what in the world? And we start immediately judging. Right. And so my self-talk is, hey, different is not necessarily wrong. And so I remind myself with that self-talk, and it really helps me to operate in a multitude or plethora of relationships that are all different, and allows me to operate as my best self without judgment.
Right. But also it's funny because I was talking about people having a certain feeling or being a certain way in seasons, but also when they don't do that anymore or don't act like that anymore, I find it hard to not say, ooh, I'm glad you're not doing that no more, because I was thinking, because it's not nice, right? And then it makes them feel a way like, oh, so you thought that for the last 5 years when I was going through such and such? So it's sometimes you have to say to yourself, oh, well, that is a great decision. I agree with that.
Right.
And not make them feel so bad or feel awkward, right?
Yeah.
Like you were saying.
Yeah.
When it does change and you do agree, and sometimes it never changes, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
My daughter and I, it's just fun, but sometimes when people do stuff, our favorite thing to say is she crazy? And we just kind of laugh because we're like, oh my gosh, we wouldn't do that. But it's just kind of a funny way sometimes of saying, what is happening right now?
Right.
Like you said, you do like, what?
Yep.
But it's working for them, right?
Yeah.
So
and maybe it is, right? And that's why it's hard. Sometimes it's not working for them.
Yeah, well.
Right. Yeah. And if it's somebody you care about, you're like, it's not working for you.
But that's a fine line too, because you don't want to do anything to mess up the relationship.
Yeah.
Sometimes, right?
I know. And that's what, we talked about in another episode, guys, like we're practicing this self-talk, right? Because we're starting to say different things to ourselves that allow us to move throughout our day with positive energy, with a flow where you're not bothered by so much, and you learn how to create an exit for things that perhaps damage your energy, and perhaps create an entrance way for things that add to your energy. So you're opening this door to say, you know what, I'm going to allow myself this time, where I never allow myself this time for meditation, for peace, or for me, because I need that for my energy. And I'm going to create this door to allow myself to rid myself, to not, you say this often, that sounds like a whole bunch of none of my business, to rid yourself of things that, why am I even worried about that? That's them, that's their choice, their decisions, and they're going to have to live with that. And it's tough, like you said, because if it's people that you care about.
And also sometimes you're saying separate yourself, but sometimes you're in a position where you actually have to watch it happen.
Right.
You can't separate yourself.
Right.
That is really, really not easy to do.
Yeah.
Right? Because I understand what you're saying. Like, okay, well, I'm going to let them have their time and I'm going to let them go through that. But what do you do when you're kind of in the midst of it?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're a part of it.
I know. You got to have them watch self-talk so they can start realizing that, you know what, my choices are leading to these consequences, these results, and I don't like them. So I got to shift my philosophies first, then attitudes, when we had that whole episode. So perhaps if they start watching, listening, associating with people and resources that allow them to start thinking differently, then they'll make different choices that benefit them more.
Right. Well,
Right.
I mean, yeah, because you have your intentions every day, you have your affirmations every day, but those kind of go by the wayside if your self-talk is off.
Yeah.
Because it all goes together.
But you just assume that people do have those things. And a lot of folks don't have affirmations. Right. So a lot of people aren't intentional about starting their day off the right way.
Right.
So that was an assumption, because if that's the case, you're right. They're already behind on the day in terms of positioning their own energy the way they want it to be. They're letting the world dictate what their energy is based on the email, based on what they saw on social media, based on an interaction with the person, because they didn't have a chance to set themselves up for the win. We've talked about that in the past.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? So go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm just thinking if you are in a situation where maybe you are in the midst of having to deal with a situation or a person who's totally different, maybe not wrong, just totally different, that you just have to focus in on yourself maybe.
Yeah.
And like you said, not buy into it.
Yep. Yep. I mean, because different is like, is unlike, it's dissimilar. It's just not the same.
It's not the same nature.
Right. And so sometimes it's just not, you're just not evenly matched or yoked with that person. And so that person just can't be a best friend to you. They can't be in your top 5 just because you guys would, you would bump heads all the time because it's so different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And again, just because someone is close to you in terms of relationship, close to you in terms of coworker, so it doesn't mean you have to be best friends with them.
Right.
Because sometimes where you're headed and where they're headed are two different directions. And so there's no alignment in terms of goals. There's no alignment in terms of dedication, commitment. There's no alignment in terms of thought processes. And so what happens is, we get frustrated with each other. And so, so the way I choose my top 5 is if I'm in a place where I've made a decision to head in a certain direction, anything that adds to me heading in that direction is a good thing.
Yes.
Anything that takes away from me heading in a direction that I said that this is what I've been called to do. This is my purpose. This is what I'm excited about over the next 12 months, next 5 years, whatever the plan is. Anything that takes away from that probably don't belong. They don't belong in the inner circle.
Right.
You know what I mean? We talked about the whole Target deal, right?
Yeah.
So that smallest ring in the Target, they probably don't belong in that one because it will take you away from what you said you wanted. And it's a shame because we see it all the time. It's like 5 years, 10 years go by and they're like, man. And typically it's because the people that are close to them cause them to move backwards, not closer towards their goal.
Am I in your top 5?
I mean, we're married. I'm with you all the time.
Now, just because you're married sometimes doesn't mean the person's in your top 5.
That would be scary.
Well, it'll be very scary. But you didn't answer my question. Am I in your top 5?
I mean, yes.
What? Why'd you say like you're like? I mean, yes. It's kind of like we're on camera, so I have to say yes.
No, I mean this is a weird question. Like
it's not a weird question. That's a very valid question.
Okay, you're right. I guess it could be valid. Here's why. Watch this self-talk.
Oh my gosh.
Different is not wrong. So because you're thinking about this differently doesn't mean you're wrong.
How am I thinking about it differently? I just asked a question. I don't understand.
Because I don't know, unless a married couple are just passing by each other.
It could be a season.
Like ships in the night.
It could be a season where they're not on the same page.
That's true.
Are we on the same page? It's the only thing I'm asking you. I don't understand why you can't answer the question.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. That's all I wanted. Sometimes you just have to give me what I want.
Okay. There you go. You got it. Yes, you're in the top 5.
Yes. But are you in my top 5? Ask me. Just please ask me.
Am I in your top 5?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
All the time, every single day.
So before we end this episode, this is good. I'm glad you took it in this direction because as a married couple,
yes,
are there times where you feel like I'm different than you? Like I'm thinking about it differently?
Yes, absolutely. But we talk through it and we have some great conversations and some are tough conversations that turn into great conversations. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're not always on the same page.
Nope, not at all.
What? Wait, what? Somebody cut the cameras off. I don't.
No, I didn't say frequently not on the same page. I'm saying sometimes we're not on the same page at all.
Like, okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
I didn't say we're never on the same page.
Yeah,
I'm just saying the times that we're not on the same page, sometimes we're really not even in the same book.
Yeah, but that was kind of shady at all.
It was a little shady.
Need to add that in. But no, you're right. That's okay.
Right. So, but the good thing, again, I think this podcast has helped us out to have more fruitful conversation in what would be probably deemed as tough conversations.
Absolutely.
Right? Because sometimes change can be difficult for some people. Mm-hmm. And because change is difficult for somebody and not for somebody else, doesn't mean that person's wrong because they take longer to accept change.
That's true.
This is the self-talk I'm telling you I have to give myself because I'm so quick to move. And I'm so quick to I don't understand. Let's go. Let's move. We said we're going to do this. Let's go make it happen. So I am, what they call an 8 personality. Mm-hmm. So if somebody doesn't get it done in the time frame I think they should get it done, I'm just going to do it.
You do. And I know that when you say, whenever you get a chance, that means he wants you to do it right now. Whenever you get a chance, could you get me something to drink? I'll go get it right now. It's fine. Just different. It's not wrong.
I hope this really helps you guys out because it certainly helps me out, especially when people are doing things slightly different or maybe doing it at a different speed. And again, everybody's different. Some people got married at a younger age, so they operate differently than someone who they're in their 40s and still haven't been married.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so that's not wrong for that person to operate differently in their selection of who they're dating than someone else who operated differently when they were in their 20s and they were dating.
Very true.
Right? So they're not wrong. It's just different. And the person who's in their 20s who got married can't really judge the person in their 40s. They've never been in their 40s and not married.
Yep.
So they can't, it's hard for them to really grasp. They're like, I would never do it. Well, you don't know because you've never been in that situation.
Right.
This is why I have to continue to remind myself of that so that I can speak with people, not down at people. And it's hard sometimes because you're like, what? Why? Like you said, why in the world? Mm-hmm. But people have gone through they've grown up differently. They've been talked down to all their lives. Yeah. They've been told they're not going to be anything, do anything. They've been verbally abused. And if you've not been, then it's sometimes hard to see why they're so defensive. You
don't have a frame of
reference. And why they're so up in arms. Yeah. And why they're so guarded. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we have to be sensitive. And that helps us out as we build healthy relationships out there. So remember, different is not necessarily wrong. Sometimes it is wrong, but not necessarily wrong. Should I have not said that?
You should say that.
Okay.
You negated the whole episode, actually, by saying that. you can't say that. Try again. Say it again.
Okay. Different is not wrong.
Right.
Unless you're breaking the law. But look, check this out. The way certain laws are written, and again, certain beliefs in religions, right? It's like some people believe in polygamy, and some people believe in monogamy. Mm-hmm. Some people believe in swinging.
That's not religious.
No, I'm just saying. It's just like, so somebody's like, I can't believe, and it's like, well, no, it's fine with all of them. They're all fine with it. Like all of them.
Why?
I'm just saying, because some people, I think, will say, well, it's not right because, my Quran, my Bible, and I get that. But again, that's for you. Mm-hmm. That's for you. So I have a belief, mm-hmm. but it doesn't mean that somebody else is going to have the same belief. And am I going to spend all my time trying to beat up on that person?
No.
Or try to live as the example of what's right for me?
What was right for you? Absolutely.
Exactly. That's what I meant by that.
Okay. But you do want one wife, right?
Huh? What?
Okay. Okay.
All right, y'all. This has been another episode of the Self-Talk Experience. Remember, the things you say to yourself about yourself eventually determines what you attract for yourself.
And when I'm being different, I'm always right.
Thank you for listening to the Self-Talk Podcast with Darnell and Tracy Self. We hope you enjoyed. Be sure to rate and review this podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform. And we'll see you next time. And remember, talk good to yourself.